Hey, real quick before the story starts, if you like lit reading, I've got something new you might enjoy. It's called New Tales Told, original short stories. Same voice, same vibe. Just search for New Tales Told right here in this podcast app. And just so you're not surprised, there may be some ads before the story. Sorry, we have to pay the bills.
Take control of the numbers and supercharge your small business with Xero. That's Xero. With our easy-to-use accounting software with automation and reporting features, you'll spend less time on manual tasks and more time understanding how your business is doing. 87% of surveyed U.S. customers agree Xero helps improve financial visibility. Search Xero with an X or visit Xero.com/ACAST to start your 30-day free trial. Conditions apply.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever think about switching insurance companies to see if you could save some cash? Progressive makes it easy to see if you could save when you bundle your home and auto policies. Try it at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states.
Welcome to Lit Reading. I'm Don McDonald. It's time for another short story for those times when you only have a few minutes. Saki is the pen name for H. Monroe, and Clovis Sandgrill was one of his favorite characters and was featured in numerous short stories. The following is one of Clovis's shorter encounters, entitled Clovis on Parental Responsibility by Saki. Marian Eggleby sat talking to Clovis on the only subject she ever willingly talked about, her offspring and their varied perfections and accomplishments. Clovis was not in what could be called a receptive mood. The younger generation of Eggleby, depicted in the glowing, improbable colors of parent impressionism, aroused in him no enthusiasm. Mrs. Eggleby, on the other hand, was furnished with enthusiasm enough for two. "You would like Eric," she said argumentatively rather than hopefully. Clovis had intimated very unmistakably that he was unlikely to care extravagantly for either Amy or Willie. "Yes, I feel sure you would like Eric. Everyone takes to him at once. You know, he always reminds me of that famous picture of the youthful David. I forget who it's by, but it's very well known." "That would be sufficient to set me against him if I saw much of him," said Clovis. "Just imagine at auction bridge, for instance, when one was trying to concentrate one's mind on what one's partner's original declaration had been, and to remember what suits one's opponents had originally discarded, what it would be like to have someone persistently reminding one of a picture of the youthful David. It would be simply maddening. If Eric did that, I should detest him." "Eric doesn't play bridge," said Mrs. Eggleby with dignity. "Doesn't he?" asked Clovis. "Why not?" "None of my children have been brought up to play card games," said Mrs. Eggleby. "Drafts and Halma and those sorts of games I encourage. Eric is considered quite a wonderful drafts player." "You are strewing dreadful risks in the path of your family," said Clovis. "A friend of mine who is a prison chaplain told me that among the worst criminal cases that have ever come under his notice, men condemned to death or to long periods of penal servitude, there was not a single bridge player. On the other hand, he knew of at least 2 expert drafts players among them." "I really don't see what my boys have got to do with the criminal classes," said Mrs. Eggleby resentfully. "They have been most carefully brought up, I can assure you that." "That shows that you were nervous as to how they would turn out," said Clovis. "Now, my mother never bothered about bringing me up. She just saw to it that I got whacked at decent intervals and was taught the difference between right and wrong. There is some difference, you know, but I've forgotten what it is." "Forgotten the difference between right and wrong?" exclaimed Mrs. Eggleby. "Well, you see, I took up natural history and a whole lot of other subjects at the same time, and one can't remember everything, can one? I used to know the difference between the Sardinian dormouse and the ordinary kind, and whether the wryneck arrives at our shores earlier than the cuckoo, or the other way around, and how long the walrus takes in growing to maturity. I dare say you knew all those sorts of things once, but I bet you've forgotten them." "Those things are not important," said Mrs. Eggleby. "But the fact that we've both forgotten them proves they are important," said Clovis. "You must have noticed that it's always the important things that one forgets, while the trivial, unnecessary facts of life stick in one's memory. There's my cousin, Editha Cleverly, for instance. I can never forget that her birthday is on the 12th of October. It's a matter of utter indifference to me on what date her birthday falls, or whether she was born at all. Either fact seems to me absolutely trivial or unnecessary. I've heaps of other cousins to go on with. On the other hand, when I'm staying with Hildegard Shrubley, I can never remember the important circumstance whether her first husband got his unenviable reputation on the turf or the stock exchange. And that uncertainty rules sport and finance out of the conversation at once. One can never mention travel either, because her second husband had to live permanently abroad." "Mrs. Shrubley and I move in very different circles," said Mrs. Eggleby stiffly. "No one who knows Hildegard could possibly accuse her of moving in a circle," said Clovis. "Her view of life seems to be a non-stop run with an inexhaustible supply of petrol. If she can get someone else to pay for the petrol, so much the better. I don't mind confessing to you that she has taught me more than any other woman I can think of." "What kind of knowledge?" demanded Mrs. Eggleby, with the air a jury might collectively wear when finding a verdict without leaving the box. "Well, among other things, she introduced me to at least 4 different ways of cooking lobster," said Clovis gratefully. "That, of course, wouldn't appeal to you. People who abstain from the pleasures of the card table never really appreciate the finer possibilities of the dining table. I suppose their powers of enlightened enjoyment get atrophied from disuse." "An aunt of mine was very ill after eating a lobster," said Mrs. Eggleby. "I dare say, if we knew more of her history, we should find out that she'd often been ill before eating the lobster. Aren't you concealing the fact that she'd had measles and influenza and nervous headache and hysteria and other things that aunts do have long before she ate the lobster? Aunts that have never known a day's illness are very rare. In fact, I don't personally know of any. Of course, if she ate it as a child of 2 weeks old, it might have been her first illness and her last. But if that was the case, I think you should have said so." "I must be going," said Mrs. Eggleby in a tone which had been thoroughly sterilized of even perfunctory regret. Clovis rose with an air of grateful reluctance. "I have so enjoyed our little talk about Eric," he said. "I quite look forward to meeting him some day." "Goodbye," said Mrs. Eggleby frostily. The supplementary remark which she made at the back of her throat was, "I'll take care that you never shall." H. Munro, known as Saki, was one of the finest writers of the early 20th century. He was purportedly A. Milne's favorite author and is best known for his many short stories. We'll come back to the wisdom and wit of Clovis in further episodes of Lit Reading. Thanks for listening. Please subscribe to the podcast on your favorite podcast service or at our website, litreading.com. And we'd really appreciate if you tell a friend or 2 or 10. And the thing I love most is when you leave a review, particularly at Apple Podcasts. Thanks for listening. I'm Don McDonald.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever think about switching insurance companies to see if you could save some cash? Progressive makes it easy to see if you could save when you bundle your home and auto policies. Try it at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary, not available in all states.
There are millions of podcasts out there, and you've chosen this one. Whether you're a regular or just here on a whim, it's what you have chosen to listen to. With Yoto, your kids can have the same choice. Yoto is a screen-free, ad-free audio player. With hundreds of Yoto cards, there are stories, music, and podcasts like this one, but for kids. Just slot a card into the player and let the adventure begin. Check out yotoplay.com.
You're invited to spend an evening on Fremont Avenue. For generations, this house has been home to soulful music, good food, and cutthroat card games. Saints and sinners. Unexpected laughs and unspoken truths. Good times, hard times, and of course, family. Always family. So pull up a chair and join us at Fremont Avenue, a world premiere play only at Arena Stage. Now in performances. Tickets at arenastage.org.
Thanks for listening all the way to the end. You're officially a story finisher, and I appreciate that more than you know. If you're curious what else I'm up to, check out one of my other podcasts, New Tales Told. It's brand new, original short fiction written and narrated by me. Just search New Tales Told in this app. And thanks so much for listening to Lit Reading, now part of the Storyverses channel at storyverses.com.